I swept my eyes across the landscape and then... Fuck my ass. I saw Alisa, hanging high above the ground from the tree right in front of the cabin. Oh dude, that's fucking scary. A sharp pain pierced my temples and I collapsed to the ground. The horror was so overwhelming that I literally felt my whole body being bound in steel chains. Blinded with fear, I barely managed to crawl back into the cabin and close the door. What happened? Masha rushed over to me. Don't look! I grasped her arm. Don't go outside! What's the matter? She reached out for the door handle and I attempted to stop her, but she was so weak that I could only let out a groan of despair. Opening the door, Masha screamed and froze in her tracks. Gathering my last ounces of strength, I got up and kicked the door shut. The next moment, Masha fainted and fell back into my arms. I carried her to the bed and put down next to the shaking Ruder. His face told me that he's definitely not interested in knowing what happened there. All the screams woke up Lena and she slightly in her bed and gave us a glance. Alle drehen durch. What's happening? She asked in a whisper. I didn't know how I should reply. I felt a scream rising up in my throat, but I managed to muffle it to a hollow sigh. Then I was horrified, but it still didn't realize what exactly had happened here. Don't go outside, I moaned. Unlike Masha, she wasn't one to argue. An oppressive silence ensued. Even a grasshopper seemed to quiet down in order to add suspense to the situation. Masha was still lying on my lap, Ruda was quivering in the corner of the bed, and Lena was sitting in front of me with an expression of doom and despair on her face. I stared at the door with an unblinking gaze, waiting for the moment it would burst open and... My fear couldn't manifest in any concrete form. A homicidal maniac, a monster, an alien. It was the horror of the unknowable, darkness and emptiness. Huch! I wasn't afraid that I would be torn to pieces, just like Slavia, or I could become a zombie like Oljana. I was afraid to disappear, to disappear, vanish without a trace from this world. Masha let out a quiet moan. I just had such a nightmare. It wasn't a dream. She opened her eyes wide and looked at me with horror. Then, there... Don't look. She shouted and hastily embraced her. I shouted. Lena started crying loudly, ran up and pressed herself against me, trembling all over. Long minutes dragged on in agonizing silence. So, what are we going to do now? Asked Masha through her tears. She didn't seem so self-confident now, although we were all in the same situation. Time passed, yet nothing happened. We had to make a decision. I couldn't say that I came back to my senses after what I saw, but I still felt my mind clearing up a bit. Dude, ich kann das Spiel doch nicht nochmal so spielen. Oh Mann, vielleicht hätte ich Mikos Route als letztes spielen sollen, weil das fängt jetzt gerade so mega rein. Jesus fucking Christ. I knew one thing for certain, we can't stay here. And it wasn't because it was more dangerous here than anywhere else. It's just because I can't endure staying near the corpse of Alisa. I bet it's even more of a gut-wrenching experience for the girls. We have to go, I said quietly. I felt Masha and Lena hug me even tighter. We have to... Ruda stopped shaking and left the bed. How are you feeling? I asked Lena. She said nothing. Can you walk? Probably. Scheiß Haare. Interessant. I gently escaped their embraces and got up. We have to run. At night it will be easier to go. But we... I should try to make a humble objection. Yeah, I know that we decided to stay, but now we have to get out of here. I turned to Ruder. You do realize that they shouldn't see all that. We gave a barely visible nod. Although Ruder didn't know what happened to Alisa, it was obvious that his vivid imagination had conjured up so many gruesome theories during this time that he was probably even more depressed than me. Okay, we're gonna hold hands and go. I'll go first and lead the way. Masha goes next and Lena then you. I looked at the girls. They were sitting with their heads hanging down, sobbing quietly. Ready? Nobody replied. This was obviously a useless question. One can never be ready for such a situation. I took Masha's hand, turned around and gave Lena and Ruda a serious look. Okay, now shut your eyes and don't open them no matter what. You got that? Yeah. Lena nodded. I steeled myself, pushed open the door and went out, holding Masha's hand. Watch out for the steps. Nun, ich bin immerhin noch ganz glücklich, dass sie da hängt. Wenn ich mir jetzt vorstelle, sie wäre einfach weg. Yo, Dude, man sieht hier noch Slavia. Sie haben einfach versucht, Slavia rauszueditieren und haben dann Alisa reingemacht. Der Himmel sieht aus wie ein Stalker Shadow of Chernobyl. Das letzte Level am AKW. Irgendwie sieht ihr Kopf aus wie Urba Diavanil von Final Fantasy 13. Was es nicht gerade besser macht. When we made our way outside, I darted a final glance at Alisa. What I saw now didn't send me sprawling on the ground, although my heart was racing frantically. I was feeling sick and dizzy and my stomach turned. She was hanging about 5 meters above the ground, several neckerchiefs tied together in a string were tightened around her throat. 5 Meter über dem Boden, wie ist sie da hochgekommen? Außerdem, der Baum sieht aus wie aus World of Warcraft. Bulging eyes, protruding tongue. Whatever. Was ist das für Wörter? Putefactions already at work on the body. Was ist denn Putrefactions? Lass mich das mal kurz googeln. Putrefaction. Putrefaction is the 5th stage of death following pallor mortis, algor mortis, rigor mortis and liver mortis. Verwesung, Fäulnis, Zersetzung, Putrefaktion, Verrottung. Ha? Wie kann das sein? Sie hängt da doch erst seit nicht länger wie 5 Stunden. Ja, gut, das wird ja hier auch beschrieben. It looked like she didn't die a couple of hours ago, but at least a couple of days. An expression of agony and inhuman suffering was permanently frozen on her face. It was clear that she couldn't have done such a thing to herself. My God, who came up with all this? Maybe we are in hell? I hastened my steps away from the diabolical scene, dragging the others along. I ordered them to open their eyes only when we reached the square. She's still there? Asked Masha, not letting go of my hand. I've just nodded. Who? Alisa? Then I cried out loud and burst into tears. Masha embraced her and tried to comfort her. What happened to her? muttered Rudo with a faltering tongue. I bet you don't want to know that. For a while I just stood there and looked at the moon. Lena was sobbing, Rudo was pacing in circles around us, and Masha sat down on the bench and buried her face in her hands. Okay, it's time, I said quietly, and yet nobody moved. We can't stay here. I walked to Masha, leaned over and took her hand. She raised her eyes filled with tears at me and nodded. We slowly proceeded to the bus stop. Wenn da jetzt ein Bus steht, Alter. Night has fallen on the camp. Along the way I noticed that the grasshoppers were almost quiet. Keeping silent for some time, now they resumed their nasty song, but this time it was much quieter and, I might say, a little bit more respectful. The daytime progressive noise changed to a nocturne for violin and orchestra. Is there any chance they are conscious about what's going on here? Of course, if we assume that there are grasshoppers in hell, too. Okay, kein Bus. We came to the bus stop we came to the bus stop and stopped, hesitating. So, where are we going? Asked Masha, wiping her tears. Okay, we already tried going to the right, let's go to the left. But there's no town there. And just a couple of days ago there was no camp to the right. Maybe we shouldn't. Lena stopped quietly. I have no choice, I won't stay here any longer. We were just about to get moving when we heard noises approaching us from far away. I strained my eyes and caught a glimpse of some... Oh shit. A bus! Exclaimed Ruto with joy in his voice. Shut up, you fool! That's not a bus! People are approaching! I hissed at him. Lots of people, said Masha anxiously. It was utterly clear that we shouldn't stay here any longer. The fuck, dude? I turned around and saw someone approaching us down the road from the other direction too. The noise was getting louder. The chipping of grasshoppers, although not their usual tone, a much louder, distorted version as if it has been passed through a guitar amplifier. Run! I shouted, but nobody moved. Ah, screw it! I grabbed Masha and Lena's hands and darted off back into the camp. The girls were floundering in a stupor, so I ended up literally dragging them along. Having dashed to the square, I stopped to catch some breaths, and only then I did realize that Ruda had been left behind. We have to go back to get him! Masha screamed and shifted towards the bus stop. Are you nuts? These nuts! I pulled her hand and forced her to stop. You want us all to meet the same fate? And I was trembling so wildly that I felt my right hand shaking as it held hers. Keep running! Where to? Don't know, into the woods! Returning to Olga's cabin wasn't an option. My self-preservation instinct also suggested that we shouldn't stay in the open area as well. We dashed towards the woods. Hilfe! I held Girl's hands tightly. They ran with difficulty, especially Lena was swaying and weaving. She fell a few times, but I quickly picked her up, spurring her on with shouts and dragged her on. Passing through the trees was the hardest part. Though the full moon was shining up in the sky in the dark, I was still constantly running into snags, branches falling into pits. Nettles were slashing my legs and leaves were hitting me in the face, leaving painful scratches. My heart was pounding heavily. Oh nein, wir fallen in die Mine, oder? Every breath I took whistled painfully in my lungs. The blood was pounding so heavily in my head that it seemed like my skull was reaching to burst from the pressure at any moment. I stopped feeling my body. My legs carried me forward by themselves. At least we ran out in the clearing and stopped. Exhausted, the girls fell to the ground and I sat on a fallen tree. Who were they? People? Or demons? Or something else? And where was the chipping sound coming from? I couldn't make them out in the twilight, but that was probably for the best. After I slightly recovered my senses, I walked up to the girls. Lena was lying dead white on the ground. Seems like she's completely lost it. Masha was sitting, hugging her knees and rocking from side to side. "We've got to do something," I said as I sat near her. "It's too late. We're gonna die," she whispered in a hollow voice. "We're still alive. That means there's still hope." "No, there's nothing now. It's all over." I put my arms around her and held her tight. "No, it's not." War da schon immer dieser Nebel? Oh, Dude. Mir fällt dieser Nebel erst jetzt so richtig auf, aber gut. Ah, schön gezeichnet auf jeden Fall. Erstmal ein Lachgummi. Damit die Kehle wieder etwas feucht wird. Uah. Da gibt fast der Stuhl um. Okay. I sat staring into the darkness of the forest. The grasshoppers could barely be heard now. If not for Masha's labored breathing, I would think I was dead. "Forgive me," she whispered quietly. "For what?" "For everything. For me being like that. For whatever we failed to achieve." "It's not the right time for that now," I said tenderly. "We don't have much time left, so I would say it's the right time." Oh, das hat sie gesagt. Sorry. She looked up at me and fainted slightly. She looked up at me and faintly smiled. "Forgive me. If only I hadn't been so selfish in the first place." I looked into her eyes, her buttonless, sorrowful eyes, and I felt a hot tear crossing my cheek. "No, it's me who should be sorry. I was totally ignorant of what to say in such a situation. I did so much wrong to her, caused her so much pain, and now, at the last minute, I can't think of anything other than an empty I'm sorry. I was overwhelmed with anger and at my helplessness, at being unable to protect the only person I held dear. You know, I always loved you." "I know," she said quietly. "Aww." Masha smiled again, although her face was trembling and tears were running down her cheeks. "And I still love you." "I know." I couldn't stand it. I longed to turn away, to close my eyes. But I can't afford weakness at this last minute. I leaned down and kissed her hard. Oh, kissed her hard. Time stood still for us. This cursed pioneer camp, the dark night, all those hellspawn and even the bloody grasshoppers just ceased to exist. The whole universe ceased to exist. Just two of us were left. Just when I was almost willing to believe that it was all just a bad dream, the woods came alive with rustling. The foliage far away quivered and a swarm of vague silhouettes emerged from the darkness. I still couldn't make them out, but I was certain that they are the same creatures that we'd seen at the bus stop. My whole body was stricken with dismay. I was afraid to breathe. "So, this is how it ends," said Masha quietly and held me tighter. "No, this is not the end. Suddenly I've realized that I will fight for her till the last drop of my blood. As long as there's the slightest chance of survival." I jumped up, tugged her off the ground and rushed over to Lena. She was lying, deathly pale with her eyes open, and she didn't seem to understand what was happening at all. I started... Aua, ich hab einen Pickel an der... Ich kratze mich gerade so an der Nase, so am Nasenflügel, hab da... Aua. Oh Mann, wie scheiße ist das denn? Ja. I started shaking her by the shoulders. Get up! There was no reaction. I gave her a few slaps and she let out a dull moan. Get up, now! As I rose Lena, she stared at me with a spaced out look. Let's run! I grabbed the girls by the hand and rushed aimlessly. The further from them, the better. I was tumbling down, getting up again, helping Lena and Masha get up too, hewing through the dense foliage. Eventually the noise faded, leaving us with only the quiet chirping of grasshoppers. The light flickered in the distance. Fuck my life. Oh, scheiße. Fuck my life, dude. Oh nein, Alter. Oh. Soon enough we came out into a small clearing, completely sheltered by the trees. There was a building that somehow looked like a kindergarten. What is that? I stammered. The building of the old camp, said Lena faintly. It seems that she was slowly coming back to her senses. I stopped hesitating. Sure, it was quite naive to think that we can find shelter there. Fuck off. It was obvious that we can't be secure anywhere with all the stuff that's happening. On the other hand, we were on the verge of collapsing. Especially the girls. I took a few hesitant steps towards the building when the rustling from behind reached my ears. I froze in my tracks, unable to turn around. Ah. The rustling was growing loud and suddenly we heard the diabolical chirping. Jesus fucking dicks! Es ist die Armee der Ulyanas. I forced myself with a superhuman effort and turned around. A crowd was behind me. A crowd of little girls. Or rather a crowd of Ulyanas. They were all exactly the same as that Ulyana I saw this morning. With the same torn face and oh, wie ist schwindlig, Alter. And the same torn face and horrible distorted smile. Dude. And all of them made the same hellish sound, the chirping of grasshoppers. A diabolical noise that chilled my heart. We froze where we stood, unable to make even a single step away. All of a sudden, one of the Ulyanas came forward from the crowd and pulled the severed head of Rudo from behind her back. A grimace of horror, and was permanently frozen on his face. I almost fainted as she started to talk. Hi there, Semyon. How are you doing? Her voice felt like a bullet piercing right through my brain. I screamed and fled towards the old camp building, dragged the girls along. I must admit that back then I would completely stop thinking of Masha or Lena. Maybe they were also screaming, maybe were shackled by horror, I do not know. The most important thing now is to get as far away as possible from these monsters. We flew into the building and immediately the ground disappeared under our feet and I fell into the darkness. I awoke in complete darkness. My whole body ached, especially my legs, but somehow I still managed to get up leaning against the wall. The sound of Ulyanas was nowhere to be heard, which calmed me down a little. I called out in a thin voice. Masha! Lena! I heard a movement nearby and felt someone gripping my leg. I instinctively jumped back, but at the same moment, a faint voice came from below. Are we still alive? Seems like it. I helped Masha get up. fucking knew it. Suddenly a bright light fired up a couple of meters away from me. I leaned against the wall, trembling, but immediately realized that it was Lena who turned on a flashlight. Where did that come from? Where did you get that? Lena came closer, limping. I just took it. I took it just in case. Yesterday. I took the flashlight from her and shone it around. We were in some kind of tunnel. The walls were lined with wires. Unlit lamps were hanging from the ceiling. Where are we? I don't know. Looks like some kind of bomb shelter. I looked up and saw a pretty formidable hole, beyond which one could barely make out the hallway of the old camp building. The floor was probably rotted with age, and we fell down from here. And we fell down here. No. At first glance, there was no way to climb back too high, and there's nothing to grab. So, what is there? Go further? I asked, not really expecting an answer. I don't know, but we'll have to check. I shone the flashlight ahead of us and took a few uncertain steps. My whole body was covered with bruises and scratches, but I could still walk. Ouch! And I cried out behind me. What is it? I think I sprained my ankle. I was honestly expecting the next line to be something cliched like, "Leave me behind, I'll only be a burn." But of course she could never say that. Okay, lean on me. Oh, ich muss so pissen, Alter. Oh. Oh ja. Nervositätspissen. Ne, kennt ihr das? Natürlich kennt ihr das. I went over to Lena and afforded her my shoulder. Soon enough the stone walls gave way to wooden ones and we ended up in some sort of a mine. Let's have a break. Masha begged. I carefully lowered Lena to the ground and sat down nearby. Well, at least those monsters are nowhere to be seen. But for how long? I sighed heavily and closed my eyes. What do you think is going on here? Masha's voice was trembling, but she still sounded more or less confident. Looks like she's so exhausted and devastated that there's just no strength left for fear. Ich frage mich gerade, was wenn Shurik dasselbe Schicksal ereilt hat? Was wenn Shurik auch irgendwie, aus welchem Grund auch immer, in diese Mine hier gegangen ist und dann auch diese Ereignisse durchlebt hat, die wir gerade durchleben. Dann würde es mich natürlich nicht mehr wundern, dass der Typ so durchgedreht ist. Looks like she's so exhausted and devastated that there's just no strength left for fear. I don't know, and honestly, I don't want to know. But we're gonna get out? Definitely. I couldn't see her face, but I was sure that she's smiling. Suddenly the flashlight blinked and went out. Yeah. I hit it with my palm several times. The mine was lit up with a dim light once again, and I immediately realized that something was wrong. Lena was nowhere to be found. Ah, that fucking bitch. Dude, das ist so ein schlechter Horrorfilm einfach. Das ist, was heißt schlechter Horrorfilm? Es ist so ein typischer Horrorfilm. Oh, die Lampe ist aus. Oh, sie ist wieder an. Hey, wo ist unsere Kollegin? Dum dum dum.